Views and opinions expressed in this production are those of the individual and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Shooters Nation or our sponsors. Information provided on this show is not a replacement for legal counsel or professional training. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
Welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast, the show created for you, the armed citizen. Join our hosts and subject matter experts as we talk about guns and gear, practical training and knowledge, Second Amendment issues, and the firearms culture. Be sure to join us after the show at shootersnation.com and become part of the Shooters Nation.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast. As usual, there's a little bit of business to take care of before we get started, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, we hope that you'll subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, or whichever outlet you use to listen. We also hope that you'll give us a positive review on those outlets to help other people just like you find our show and become part of the Shooters Nation. We also want to remind you guys that you can connect with us after the show in various places on the interwebs. Instagram, we are at Shooters Nation Radio. You'll find us on Facebook as Facebook.com/Shooters Nation. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for the Facebook Shooters Nation community. Quick note of interest there. That thing has grown like crazy lately. We've picked up probably 30 or 40 new members in the community in the past week alone. So that's awesome. Yeah. If you're already a member, invite your friends. The more the merrier. It's going to be great. You can also always find us in the latest episodes of the podcast at shootersnation.com. Be sure to sign up for our mailing list while you're there. And last but not least, if you like what you're hearing, we hope that you'll consider supporting the show. You can do that in several ways. If you want to help support us financially, you can do that by becoming a Patreon patron at patreon.com/ShootersNation. And also you can just spread the word. Tell your friends about us. Plug us on social media, share our posts, share us out on Facebook, invite your friends to like the page, all that other fun stuff. Again, the more, the merrier. So my name is David Yancey, and I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, Mark Lancaster of Squared Away Customs in New Hampshire. What's up, Mark?
Not a lot. How about yourself? I'm just kind of getting into the swing of summer and spend some more time at my cabin and wrangling 16-month-old that's running around and not stopping until he hits things with his forehead.
That's awesome, right? So, first of all, the cabin. I've seen plenty of pictures on Instagram of the fire pit and tobacco, cigars and bourbon and firearms and things like that. So you're living the dream at the cabin. That's fantastic.
Yeah, can't get enough of that place.
Yeah, I imagine you guys will be there as every opportunity presents itself over the next few months.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try and got a lot of travel in July, so I'm getting it all in now.
Yeah,
so I won't be able to do much in July, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy that the summer always seems to fly by really fast. I remember, I don't know about you, but as a kid, when school let out, summer vacation seemed like it was going to last forever, and now it's kind of like, as adults, it's just gone. Click gone, and it's straight back into the depressing fall months. So, yeah. All right. Well, I see that the porn stash is gone. You've got the full beard.
That lasted about a weekend.
Did it?
The wife laughing at me. So
yeah.
Chopped it off. Yeah.
All right. Well, you're back into beard mode, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been hectic here too. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. We skipped last week. We had to just by matter of necessity, and I'll explain that. But first I wanted to kind of get into some like positive stuff. So today is Monday, the 17th of June, 2019, as we record this. And it's kind of unusual. We don't normally record on a Monday. Just kind of worked out for us. But today in the news, Mark, you saw the wingnut that decided to stage the worst assault in the history of mankind on the federal courthouse in Dallas, Texas, right?
Yeah.
22-year-old armed assailant I don't know. What did he have? I saw it was like maybe a DPMS AR-15. It's like a crappy AR.
It looked like a Panther Oracle. That's what it looked like to me. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's definitely what it looked like. Is the average $379 AR.
Yeah. I mean, the memes. First of all, let me just say, thankfully, the only person that was hurt in that incident was the shooter himself.
Absolutely.
And I first of all, I don't think you want to try that in Texas ever, and you definitely don't want to try it in the federal building that houses the U.S. Marshals and like ATF and all sorts of other law enforcement. It's like the only way they could go worse is holding up a cop bar, right? So, dude got smoked pretty quick.
Man, I'm looking at the picture now. It's like he's got visibly you can see 6 different AR mags. Every one is a different color.
Right.
He's got them in his pouches the wrong way. The guy's absolutely a soup sandwich.
Oh yeah. Yeah. His clown shoes completely all the way around. The memes have been brutally funny. Right. So, I mean, again, I'm just really glad that nobody was hurt except for this idiot. And, I think the big point I want to make before we start making complete fun of the guy is that, bad guy with a gun was killed by a good guy with a gun.
Yeah.
Which is the way it's supposed to work, which is why gun-free zones suck.
It's a perfect example of the law not stopping him.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, but the memes have been spectacular.
Already.
I mean, just
you got to leave it to, alpha gun-toting dudes to come up with a bunch of awesome memes.
They're hilarious. So many fun things that can come out of this, and probably will continue to come of it over the next few days. But again, thankfully everybody was fine, and I'm making light of it because of the fact that it turned out well. So, oh my God, what did you send? You sent me some. Oh, I see the meme now. A picture's worth 1,000 words. I don't know how I can describe this. Should we post some of these in the Shooters Nation community, or would our listeners
screw this
rebel?
guy.
Yeah, screw this guy. Make fun of him. At first he was all, but then he was like, all right. So we'll have to put these in the community. They're worth sharing. Definitely worth sharing. So kudos to the people of Dallas, Texas. I'm not sure. I haven't heard yet who got this guy. It could have been an armed citizen. It could have been, a member of law enforcement. Who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
He may have tripped over his own shoelaces and shot himself, for all we know. But it was pretty bad. And this is exactly the way we want to see things like this go down. If they're going to go down, I want to see nobody innocent harmed, and I want to see the shooter quickly dispatched by somebody with a gun.
Yeah, and deuces.
Yeah, completely. So moving on to the next item of positive news. One that'll make you scratch your head, Mark. I picked up another H&K VP9.
I saw that.
Yeah.
No, you didn't pick up another one. You picked up the same one.
I picked up the same one. Yeah. So let me explain that one. Some context for the audience. A friend of mine, a local gentleman here in the Nashville area, is also a listener of the show. And I had a Glock 21 Gen 4, which was in pristine condition, that I just frankly never used and didn't envision myself using. I've got tiny little short Shrek fingers and thumbs. And so I couldn't get a good grip on that thing. Same reason I got rid of my Glock 20. It's just too big of a frame for my tiny little Cabbage Patch hands. And, thankfully, this gentleman said, "Hey, I'll trade you straight up for the VP9 that you sold me last year." And, I was like, deal, right? So I got it back, and I quickly remembered why I like the way that VP9 feels in my hands, and then I also quickly realized or remembered, why the heck don't they make a 17-round mag that fits in this gun? It makes no sense. It's exactly the same dimension as my M&P 2.0 full size with 2 less rounds. So. I don't understand that. I kind of hope that like H&K is in financial jeopardy right now. That's kind of like making the news. And I think they could reinvigorate their company by producing 17-round mags that fit in the VP9. Everybody would buy them and then start selling other guns that the civilians want. right? Like MP5s in single fire mode. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. The VP9 though, I like it, and I was glad to have it back, and I'm looking forward to playing with it. The gentleman that traded it back to me, he's like, "So what are you gonna do with the VP9?" I was like, "Man, I don't have a damn idea what I'm gonna do with this thing. Right? I just kind of want it back. I don't have a clue what I'm gonna do with it." So there you go.
It's a really comfortable gun that I shot really well.
Yeah,
that was my EDC gun for about 18 months.
Oh, was it?
Before I got onto the Glock train real hard, and if it wasn't for that gigantic bunghole in the back of the slide on that thing that fills with sand, dirt, water, sludge, mud, anything to make the gun puke, I would probably still be carrying that gun.
I'm taking advantage of progress made in time, and I'm putting an HK Parts solid plate on the back of it so that I'll just close that off and I don't have to worry about it. And I've got some night vision sights coming in for it. It actually has the Meprolite tritium sight. So this is with the factory LE model, right?
Yep.
And I just don't like the design of those sights. I like a bright orange or red or some other pronounced front sight and a very diminished rear sight, or a plain black rear sight. Night vision's got what I wanted. If they had a rear sight that was just solid metal and didn't have any tritium in it at all, I would have jumped on that 100%. So night vision guys, Jacob, if you're listening, crank those out. I think there's an audience for them, but anyway, I'm hoping to have those on the gun pretty soon and then take it back out to the range. So,
or you just snag some of Sandy's flat black nail polish and
black nail polish. That's right. Yeah. Just cover those suckers up. So
you won't.
Yeah. I like you though. I shot that gun really well. I mean, the last one that I had, I don't, it's just, and I'm using a weird combination of the grip panels on it. Like I put the large side panels and the medium, back strap, and with that, it makes my trigger finger hit exactly where it needs to.
I did it really unique too, because I like that. There are 3 sizes for each side?
Yeah, it does. It yep, sure does. Small, medium, large.
I put the biggest on the inside of my palm.
Yeah.
The biggest one possible. Then the smallest on the outside where my fingers go.
Right.
And put the medium on the back. And it was like, I put that thing in my hand. I was like, oh, this is what it's
like. It's molded to your hand. I'll try that. I will try a smaller one on the inside. Because I imagine you could get more
filled that void here in the palm. That big, it was.
Yeah.
Great. I love that thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I love the way it feels in my hand. I kind of made the wife angry the other night because she was waiting for us to watch a movie, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll be back." So I went into the master bedroom closet, and I pulled that thing out of the safe, and I'm in there dry firing it for a few minutes. Man, I love the way this thing feels, and then I realized, I've been in here for like 10 or 15, and I went back out there and I was like, I had to use the bathroom. She's like, no, you weren't. You were in there dry firing. I could hear it.
Click, rack, click,
right.
Rack.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's totally wasn't what I was doing. I wasn't standing you up to dry fire, but yeah, it was fun. So what about you? Anything new since the OZ9 and the,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of new things, and one of them I really didn't want to like, so I had to sell it immediately because I liked it way too much.
What was this?
I got a Sig Copperhead.
Oh, that's the PDW size thing.
Yeah,
right?
the Coyote Brown, which is obviously not my thing. But the Coyote Brown MPX with basically I think it's a 3-inch barrel, 9mm, with a full telescoping PDW stock, so the overall length the thing claps down like 13 inches, so you can load it right, slides evenly and nice and smooth. It's only about 2.5 inch and a half thick, 2 inches thick, somewhere in there. Slides right into a Vertex bag.
Great for the very discreet.
I'm like, and I'm holding it. I'm like, this thing isn't going to be fun to shoot. So I throw a mount on it, throw an aim point on it, took it to the range, threw a mag in it. Corey was with me. We took a quick burner over to the range to blast off a few rounds on a break. And I pulled up and I was like, bang, bang, bang. I was like, I turned around and I looked at him right in the eye and I go, I really hate that I like this.
Right.
Like it shot really good, almost no recoil. Like it doesn't move. Like my Angstead AR9.
Yeah.
lots of recoil. Like it's significant, like more than like a 5.56 gun. Like you notice that 9 mil Angst just jumping big time. But the way that the recoil system in the MPX is, man, it was so wonderful to shoot. And then I'm kind of thinking like, I'm going to keep this thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I hang it on the wall in the shop.
I'll spray paint it black or something. Yeah.
I'll spray paint it black and send it, you know? Literally the next day, customer comes in. We had done a rifle build for him, and he came in to pick up his. I had back ordered some Lancer mags for him.
Mm-hmm.
His mag showed up, and he came in. He's like, "What's that?" He's like, "Is it for sale?" I'm like, "Yep." And he left with
for sale. Wow. You know, now you're killing me because I've been thinking very seriously about selling my MPX. I've got the MPX, the pistol with the brace. It's not I guess it's like the 8-inch barrel or whatever. Right?
Is it 5.56 or 3?
No, it's 9 mil.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I put the SB.
It's not MPX then. It's MCX, right?
No, the MCX is the 5.56. The MPX.
Yeah,
is
no. That's what I'm saying. I was suggesting it was 5.56, but then it would have been an MCX. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So now I put the SB Tactical brace on it, and I forget what it is, Vortex Venom or something, and it's just like that. Like you said, there's so little recoil, and it's easy to just group in a, you know, like a 2-inch circle, you know, rapid fire from, I don't know, 15, 20 yards, easy. And I was thinking about that the other day. It's like, do I really need a pistol caliber carbine like this? Right? Do I really need this? Because I've got the 300 blackout pistol build, and you know, there's always that itch of picking up an AK 7.69 pistol. So I don't know. I thought about selling it and maybe funding a Zev OZ9, but I just don't know. I really don't know what I'm going to do. I tend not to sell, and if I do sell, I tend to regret it. So, yeah.
No, I just turn them like crazy.
But I guess, you know, you can always get one back too, right? So that's a good thing. Yeah.
But I do have, and I mean the topic of this episode, maybe we'll wait and we'll talk about it during the topic, the core part of this episode.
Okay.
Because we're definitely going to go down that rabbit hole when I tell you about this new thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm trying to think. The other thing that I'm waiting on right now is for Hollow Sun to get off their butts and release the 509T, the new titanium all black red dot. So as soon as they do that, I'm buying at least one, maybe two of them. We'll see. Waiting for that to happen. Yeah.
I almost popped on an SRO this week.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
I was thinking about putting on the Zev.
I saw that a mutual friend of ours and another Kydex holster manufacturer, Michael Hallam over at Holster Co. Mm-hmm. He put a SRO on something. I forget what it was.
P10C.
It's a P10C, right? Mm-hmm. And that slide had been milled for the rear iron to be in front of the RMR.
Yep.
And when he put the SRO on there, of course, that sight no longer works. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's just no way. He had knocked that sight out of the slide. So yeah, that's the big downside to the SRO, I guess, is it's you know, footprint wise, it's the same as the RMR, but it's got that gargantuan. I don't know, it's like a diver's goggle on the front of it or something, you know. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Yeah, I haven't nothing else new since then. I've been kind of looking around at different things. You know, really toyed with the idea of maybe picking up a Lobos Industries trigger for the VP9, and then I thought, nah, I'm just not going to. It's got a pretty good trigger as is. Thought about sending my full size MMP 2.0 slide off and having it milled, and then I talked myself out of that. I'm why? You know, leave one alone. Mm-hmm. So yeah, nothing really new or earth shattering there.
So I did get something else. I got a Ruger 1022 with a Feddersen. Is a Feddersen build.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is I guess more of a match grade custom shop that does 1022 stuff.
Yeah.
It's got a really heavy bull barrel that's threaded, and then I put my SIG titanium suppressor on it, and I put a bonkers. I put a Bushnell Tactical Elite 5-30 by 55 scope on it with a set, with a set of Seekins rings.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like way overkill, but it was like one of the pieces of glass I had sitting in the shop. And then I bore sighted it and got to the range, and I'm shooting them suppressed, and it's like great because it's like, barely any noise at all. When we were up at the cabin this weekend, I was shooting 120 yards, 115 yards, somewhere in there. And I was having consistent groups after even 200 rounds.
Oh, I forgot hot.
Of about an inch to an inch and a quarter.
That's cool. I've heard other people talk about like precision 22 shooting. It's like a thing, like where they go for distance.
Oh yeah, Appleseed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But man, it's fun. It's just like, and it's so cheap, and it's just like no noise, no recoil. It was just a blast. It's just like seeing how tight can I actually get these groups.
No kidding.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fun. Kristen, she shot it. My dad was shooting it. So yeah, it was a blast.
I think now that 22 ammo is finally plentiful again, all the FUDs have quit clearing out the stores every time that they would get a shipment in. Yeah, I'm probably get back into shooting 22. I've got a couple of them, and nothing suppressed yet, but yeah.
Yeah, these guys, I got 27,000 rounds of 22.
You have more going to do it more 22 that. Ammo than my ancestor or my descendants will be able to shoot. My grandkids' kids will be shooting this ammo.
Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. I was really enjoying that. Yeah, I think that's about it for me, other than this one thing, but we'll get into that in the core topic of our conversation.
Cool. All right.
Show.
Well, so shifting gears a little bit, I told the listeners on Instagram yesterday that we didn't release an episode on Sunday the 16th, which would have been Father's Day, which is yesterday, like right now as we're recording this. But and I said, hey, I'll explain on an episode. And so here's the deal, right? And this may be oversharing, but I it's interesting since I posted on social media that we weren't releasing it because my family was just kind of overwhelmed last week, and it was the last thing that was on anybody's mind was to record a show. I feel like I kind of owed an explanation, and just hinting at the fact that something was wrong. There was like this really genuine outpouring of interest and support from the audience, which I was honestly very touched by. So I guess skip forward if you don't want to hear this. But here's what's going on, right? So I'm going to graciously say that I'm in my mid 40s still, even though I'm probably closer to 50 now. My wife's in her mid 30s. I'm definitely not a spring chicken. She doesn't feel like she is, even though I think that's kind of like erroneous. But anyway, we've got two wonderful kids, and much like, Mark, you and your wife, it's been challenging to get the kids that we've got here. Right. And so, my wife and I, she's been pregnant 7 times or 6, and we've got 2 healthy kids as a result of that. We've had a rough road to get here. And shortly after we got back from the NRA annual meetings, it didn't happen at Indy, which I jokingly told her while we were at Indy, if we end up with a kid in 9 months from now, I get to name it Indy, right? And she was like, Indiana, right? She's like, no. So, I said, or I can name, Wayne, like Wayne LaPierre. She, hell no, right? So, we, so it was safely far enough past that I couldn't blame Indianapolis for this, but, she surprised me and like, hey, we're expecting again. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And so I said, great, awesome. And I was like, well, if this works out, we're done, right? Because I'm not getting younger. And she's like, yeah. If everything goes well, this will, we're done here. So, fast forward to just this past week, our first doctor's visit, ultrasound, just frankly didn't go the way that you wanted an ultrasound to go. The doctor was worried with the absence of things that, like, you normally, this far along, you expect to see a baby starting, and just didn't. And so we honestly, though, don't know where we're at yet, right? Because this doctor was kind of like, hey, look, I'm pretty good, but I'm not like the best. We're going to send you to a specialist. We want, somebody else to take a, better, closer look with ultrasound. Maybe it's too soon. Maybe you're not as far along as you think you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're kind of like in this weird limbo space right now of not knowing what the heck's going on. And of course, the mind does like it normally does, and it just terrorizes you, and you start thinking about all the possible bad outcomes. And so we just weren't in the mood for anything. Frankly, when Thursday rolled up. I think it was Wednesday when I reached out to you and said, hey, I guess we need to record something. And, you're like, well, yeah, I got to go out of town. I said, you know what? Forget it. I think, kind of like we could have done it, but I was like, no, I'm not even in the mood for it right now. So it's entirely on me last week. The reason why we didn't have a show, and it was just, life happens and we're kind of, not in a good place. And frankly, right now, we still don't know where we are. We go back tomorrow and maybe we've got good news. I hope that we do, but we might not. So, we will see, but yeah, that's why in a nutshell, life kind of hit us like a Mack truck and I didn't feel like recording anything last week. So,
absolutely.
There you are.
I mean, I can only imagine. I mean,
yeah,
we had some very, very challenging, but my wife, she's a little older than me and we're both just about 40, she is 40 now and I'm almost 40.
Yeah.
And of course our son's, 15, 16 months now. So, we were both in our 38, 39 and it was just like, man, it's just like this constant fear just pushed on you by all of them, and it was just like, there were some definite challenges in the beginning, but everything, luckily came out on.
Yeah, it worked out well, right? Yeah.
Worked out well. Yeah. But man, they don't make it easy on you in the beginning. That's for sure.
No, they don't. They definitely don't. And if there's any reason at all to be concerned, and especially with our track record, even with our son, who's the youngest, and he's almost the same age as yours, right? But it's even up to the point that like until you've got a baby in your hands and you're walking out of the hospital with it, I'm sure that her mind was playing tricks on her of this could still go wrong. This could still go wrong. This could still go wrong. Did that feel right? Did that feel normal? Did he kick the way he's supposed to kick? That kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's I think it's actually far more common than people think about because folks just don't talk about this very often. And so I guess the reason I'm sharing this is twofold to explain what was going on and just share a little bit of that, but also just to kind of maybe take away some of the stigma of the fact that, people don't talk about this very often. And I think that maybe we should, because, as a community of people, not just talking about the 2A, but just, humanity, I think we should kind of try to support each other and root for each other. And if you don't know what's going on, or nobody else knows what's going on in your life, you're kind of going at it alone. Right. So anyway, that's it. We're hoping for good news tomorrow. And if so, great. And if not, life goes on. So we will see.
Yeah. And, the feedback you got from listeners and their concern and everything just goes to show like what type of listener we have in the community that we've kind of built amongst us. So,
yeah. Without even knowing what's going on, it's like, hey, hope everything's well, take care of yourselves. We're here waiting. Don't worry about it. That kind of stuff. And so to kind of like bring it back up a notch, kind of lighten the situation. We had listener feedback today from a guy named Lee Blackburn on Instagram. And so shout out to Lee. Lee wrote, quote, love the show and all the great content. You and Mark make my week. And I'll tell you, Lee, you made my week, man, right there. I love it when people share that kind of stuff that, if we're bringing some happiness to him and enjoyment to him, on his commute or his workouts or whatever he is, he's doing when he's listening to the show, that's awesome. That makes it worthwhile. So, thanks for sharing that. Like I said, if you think that we made your week, you totally made mine by sending that feedback there. So,
yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's get straight into the thing here. The conversation today is going to be a fun one. And this is something that, Mark, you said before we began recording, you could talk like 8 hours about this, right? So we'll kind of try to
and love every second of it.
Every second of it. We'll try to constrain it. Today we're going to talk about modifying your Glock for duty, carry, and competition. And before we get started, I want to completely get out of the way some of the harassment that we're going to get from our friends, and they know who they are, and the harassment's going to be, but Glock perfection, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, buddy. It's everybody says that, but Glock perfection is a company slogan. It's marketing. It's like Chevy, like a rock, or built Ford tough, or Budweiser, the king of beers. Nobody should take that as like, oh, this is reality, right? It's a marketing thing, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So, I think that the one thing you can't really argue with, and this might step on some people's sensitivities, is that Glock has a track record of reliability and simplicity And you can't really argue with that, and so maybe there's a reason why so many companies have tried to copy the design all the way up to the point of patent infringement, Smith & Wesson. So it just kind of is what it is.
Where else are you going to get the reliability for $350 on the secondary market?
Mm-hmm.
Never will.
No. I mean, so quick history lesson. Some of our listeners may know this, but I'm going to blast through these facts real quick. Gaston Glock created what has become known as the Glock 17 in the early 1980s, right? It was adopted by the Austrian army in 1982 after prevailing in reliability and safety tests against 8 competing models from no-name companies like H&K, Sig Sauer, Beretta, F. and Hurstel, Steyr, Mannlicher. So, big companies that produce good quality stuff themselves. Gaston Glock's creation, the neophyte, the newbie in the ring, defeated all of them in reliability tests and safety tests. And so after that, it's seen widespread adoption by law enforcement and military and government agencies and civilians around the world, right? And people use the silly thing for self-defense, recreation, competition, duty carry. I think there's several members of the United States Special Forces community, special operations, not just Army Special Forces, but like MARSOC and the Navy SEALs and others are, they issue the Glock 19 at least, I know of, maybe others for certain uses. So I guess, you can hate it because it's successful, but that's about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get people don't like the grip angle. I get they don't like the hump in the back, but I didn't like it at first either.
Yeah,
but you get used to it, and it becomes one with your hand. You know what I mean? Like over time, you will get used to it if you shoot it enough.
Yeah. I find for me it points naturally. Like if I'm going to stick my hand out, make a fist and stick my index finger out and point at something like, hey, look at that over there. My index finger, my pointy finger lines up generally with where I'm pointing the muzzle of a Glock.
So it didn't used to be that way for me.
Really? Okay.
But it certainly is now.
Okay. Yeah.
I still don't point naturally with this OZ9 yet.
So its grip angle is a lot more like the 1911, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it's taking time.
Gotcha.
And I thought it would be like, remember, I think I mentioned on a previous episode that I did like a weekend burn down. I did like 1,350 rounds in 3 days with the gun. I was like, okay. And a lot of them were draw one shot, reload, draw one shot. And it was like, man, I thought I had it. And I had it that day. And then a couple of days go by and I do some dry fire and ding, guess what I didn't have? It wasn't wasn't right there.
Yeah.
But I pulled out a Glock and sure enough, just like right in that
muscle memory, man.
That sweet spot. Yep.
Muscle memory.
I can't even tell you how many draws and how many rounds I've got through Glock 17 pistols, but
I hear you, right. And I mean, I didn't want to like the Glock originally. I picked up a Glock 23 because I wanted a 40. This was back in the 90s, and 40 was still king. And, it had a fairly high capacity. It was lightweight. The police recommended it. The police that I was friends with recommended it. So these are guys that I knew that carried a gun and relied on a gun, for real, not just because, they had like, oh, I might get robbed at some point, need to defend myself. It was, these guys used a gun in daily work. They trusted it and relied on it. And they showed me how simple it was. And being an engineer, in training, classically trained engineer in school, I was like, well, okay, I like the simplicity of it. There's reliability and simplicity. So deal. And man, I had this love-hate relationship with it. And I always have. And it's like, I hate the fact that I love it so much, but now I kind of like turn the corner and I just embrace it. And it's like, well, hey, I'm not going to argue with, God, I don't know however many years it's been now, 15 years of use, 17 years of use, something like that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So the latest project that I'm undertaking right now, all I have to show you is a bag full of parts because the frame is being stippled and the slide is being milled. But I picked up a Glock 45.
Did you?
Yep. And put a did a Zev trigger job.
Okay.
I did a extended Zeb safety, Zeb threaded 19 barrel.
Okay.
And I did all of this because I've been noticing what a comp can do for you.
Sure. Especially with fuller power 9mm rounds.
Yeah. So
124 grain or higher.
I got into a comp rabbit hole with a glass of bourbon one night and just went down this YouTube rabbit hole, and I've shot plenty of comps and I knew that they were good, but I like carrying a 17. Gotcha. I love having that full grip. The 19 grip is just too short for me. I end up pinching my hand when I'm slamming a mag in, or my fingers in the way. I just like the way the 17, my hand just fits them perfectly.
Yeah.
And so I wanted that 17 grip, but like you put a comp on a 17, you got a gun that's longer than a 34.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like at some point in time, like
it's a hassle.
Your gun can only get so big, appendix carry, and you can and still be able to sit down.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the funniest memes of all time is a Jimmy Fallon meme. I don't know if you ever saw it, but he's sitting at his desk like this. And it's all like
way
lean back. It's like what it looks like when you carry appendix.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like you can't bend, right?
No, you can't. Yeah,
because they get too long. So what I did is I got the Parker Mountain Machine
comp
Glock Gen 5 comp.
Nice.
So if you know the Gen 5's got that much more rounded nose. Well, the Parker Mountain Machine comp flares back around that, so it's like almost like smooth.
Nice. Yeah, so it's seamless.
It's very seamless looking. Yeah. So I put it on the gun, and I was like, I'm gonna go run the snot out of this thing and make sure it feels as good as I'm hoping it's going to.
Yeah.
Before I have any work done to it, So took it to the range. Dumped a box through it, took it to the range again, dumped another box through it, took it to the range again, dumped another box through it. And Corey was with me. It was the same day we shot the that MPX Copperhead.
Yeah.
And he's like, the gun doesn't move. Like I'm shooting as fast as I can, and it's like flat. It's like barely bopping. I was like, and then I look at my group at 10 yards, and I'm like, the size of a Dixie cup, bottom of a little, plastic paper Dixie cup, like 2 inches, probably a 2-inch group. And I'm shooting fast, like really fast. And I was just like, yeah, it's time to get this one.
That's an effective comp. I mean, that's good grip. First of all, good grip and grip strength, but that's a very effective comp to level it out like that.
So they did some really cool testing that I thought was really neat. I know we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but they have the what's that rest called?
Ransom rest.
Ransom rest. Yeah. So then they mounted essentially a protractor. Was it a protractor that they're measuring?
Yeah, I think it was. Right. Yes.
They're measuring. So basically what they're measuring is the degrees of flip that the gun was getting at every shot.
Yep.
They tested it at 115 grain, then they tested 115 grain plus P, and then 124 plus P.
Right.
They tested it comp, not comp. And I mean, this is scientific data, right?
Yeah.
And they're also measuring the feet per second of the round. So they're being able to compare, like what all the nuts and bolts of this and how it comes out. And it was a no brainer that this comp reduced recoil by like 40%. And I was just like, no way. Like I need to try this. So I ordered one. Well, I tried to order one. They were out of stock. And then I got on a habit of refreshing every day to check and see. So bang, they were there. And I was like, good order.
Like Black Friday shopping.
Yeah, exactly. So now I got that on the way, and I got on the gun, and like I said, I shot amazing. So now the grip is off getting its work done.
Very cool.
And the slide is off getting milled because RMR all the things.
Yeah, I'm with you. Right.
And the cool thing about the 45 is it already has the front serrations.
Right.
And not to confuse the listeners, if you're not Glock people, the Glock 45 is not a 45 ACP.
Yeah.
Right. It's a 9mm.
Call it a G45, right? Yeah, G45. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it's essentially it's a 17 grip with a 19 slide.
Yeah. When it first came out, I kind of like, why? Right? It felt like they went backwards. They should have done a 19 slide a 17 slide and a 19 frame. But now when you start seeing like stuff like that, it makes a lot of sense.
So now with a comp on my 17 size grip, I have a gun that's slightly longer than a 17 and shorter than a 34.
Very cool.
So it's still shorter than my X300 flashlight. Yeah. So it's not going to be any longer in the holster. So yeah, I've got super flat shooting comped Glock, and I'm stuck to get it back.
I mean, I've got a question, right? So you got the OZ9, which is pretty pimp and badass. Do you think that the G45 is going to be like the carry piece, and the OZ9 will be the home defense and occasional carry and range toy? Or
I don't know. I really, really am the guy that has the one gun. You know what I mean? Like I've got a truckload of them, but I rely on one.
Right.
If I'm going to go to a class, I'm going to take a class of the gun that I'm going to rely on. If I'm going to have a bedside gun, it's going to be the one that I rely on. If it's going to be a carry gun, it's going to be the gun I rely on. So I don't necessarily know where the OZ9 is going to land in all of this. I love it. Yeah. I don't like that I'm not proficient because of this grip angle change. I didn't think it would make that much of a difference for me, but it's noticeable. I'm not getting my dot as fast, period.
Right. No, I can understand that. Really, definitely understand that.
So it's really hard to say. I'm not exactly sure where all the dust is going to settle here. But I know that flat shooting. So you know where I think the dust is going to settle is, and I was thinking about this today on my drive home, is that when they come out with the 19 upper for the OZ9, I will put the 17 frame on it and then comp that.
So it's like an OZ9 G45 almost, right? At that point, sort of.
Yeah. So it'd be a 19 slide.
Yeah.
17 grip.
Right.
With all of the wonderful features of an OZ9. So it'll kind of be like the best of both worlds.
Sure will.
And I know it's in production. It's just not here yet.
Yeah.
So, and they also have a carry magwell coming, because that thing is a monster.
Yeah, that's a competition style magwell, and that OZ9 right now.
It's freaking huge.
Big. John Wick magwell or something there. So, yeah.
So that's been my latest, and it's the first thing I ever sent to Jaegerworks.
Okay.
So they're doing my slide.
Are they going to recolor it, or are you going to leave it?
Nope. The color is going to another friend who owns a company in Jersey, of all the places, called Savage Cerakote. My friend Derek takes care of me every once in a while. I send him some work here and there. We do some other work together here and there. We ended up trading a holster for a Cerakote job on a slide. So
very cool.
And he's going to match the comp to the slide so that they're the same looking. And then I sent my frame down to NAF Solutions down in Shelburne, Florida. And he's doing kind of that. This starts on the back strap at like, I forget what they call it, but it starts like one spot and it kind of has like the starburst lines that go all the way around.
Yeah. I think it is kind of like a starburst pattern or something.
Yeah. Well, I think it looks pretty cool and it's pretty effective and good for carry. So see how it goes.
Awesome. Very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that back. So, I mean, I think that's really it's an interesting segue into, one of the first thoughts that I had as I was thinking about doing this episode, which is keep it stock or modify it. Right. And so, there are varying schools of thought on modifying your Glock, and some of them are actually rooted in legalese or departmental policy, particularly for our law enforcement officers out there. But, others are probably rooted more in what I call pseudo legalese, which is, I'm not a lawyer, but I stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night, wannabe lawyers. And I think we'll touch on both of those subjects in here. There's some of these things, pardon me, are, I would never modify my carry gun because it won't look good in court. And I think that there are certain mods that are aesthetic only that are just stupid and, probably would look bad in court. And we'll call that out when we get to it. But I think everything else, from what I've heard, unless your state is just really super particular about this, a good shoot is a good shoot. Right. And so if a mod to your gun is the determining factor on whether or not you were justified in using deadly, force to protect yourself, then you probably weren't in the right to begin with, or not clearly enough in the right to have done what you did. So anyway, and then, the thing about departmental policy, I'm not an expert on this. We've got friends that are, and Mark, they've told us, even Mike Cicino was saying, hey, look, here's the thing, right? Some departments really restrict, like even weapon lights on your carry, duty gun, and you have to be certified to put a weapon light on your gun and stuff. And I didn't realize that, and that's kind of mind blowing. But So anyway, there are certain things that you're going to find that departmental policies restrict you on. And so if you're in law enforcement and your department has, I'm sure your department has policies about what you can carry to some extent or, another, you're just going to have to check and see what they allow. Right. Mm-hmm. So if we talk about anything like that in this episode, just understand that, we're kind of talking in very vague terms. So the way I think this will work is this. If a modification is particularly suited to carry or duty or competition, we'll call that out, right? And if we don't specifically call it out, it might be suitable for any within certain caveats. Like I just said, check with your department's, policy keepers to find out what's allowed. If a mod should not be considered for particular use case, we'll call that out too, right? So there are certain mods that you can do to a Glock. There's an infinite number of things you can do to a Glock, but there's certain things in here that I would not do ever to a carry gun, and we'll mention those. And I think, Mark, what we can do is we can go from easiest mods to do. And when I think about easiest, I'm thinking about investment of time, effort, money, or some combination of all three of those in each category, mm-hmm. right? So kind of easiest to more, lowest investment to most investment in terms of time, effort, money. And so listeners, this is probably the one episode where you're going to hear a lot of us screwing around with our guns because, I'm sitting here I've got my empty, made sure it's empty. Everybody heard that. My empty Gen 5 Glock 19 that's been tricked out with Zev stuff and an RMR and what have you. I've got that in my hand. So I'm going to be looking at it as I kind of walk through this because it visually walking through it for myself will help me with the show. But if you look at a Glock handgun, almost like an AR-15, you can essentially divide this gun into two major groups. Frame or the lower, the serialized lower receiver, the frame, and then the upper, the slide, right? And so that's the way I'm going to kind of divide this conversation up, and just because I feel like we need to have some categories here, right? So let's start with frame mods, the lower, right? Lowest cost, lowest investment of time, energy, money, magazines, third-party mags, right? So Glock doesn't make the only mags for Glock handguns or Glock pattern handguns anymore. Mm-hmm. Magpul makes some fantastic mags.
Amen 2.
Yeah, Amen 2, ETS. So what do you feel about for you for duty use? I'm gonna what do you think? Stick with Glock mags for duty?
Glock mags.
Yeah. Right. Makes sense. Right. Yep. For concealed carry for the civilian?
Glock mags.
Okay. You wouldn't go with the Magpul mags? I might work those in for me. I don't know. Yeah. I've had pretty good luck with them, but I mean, Glock mags are cheap enough now that you might as well just go stick with Glock.
Yep.
Competition.
Competition, I would still go Glock mag.
Really? Interesting. Mm-hmm. So where would you use the third-party Glock mags? Just screwing around the range?
Training. Training.
Okay. All right.
And so here's my reason why. So in my instance, I've had ETS mags fail. Mm-hmm. I've had a Magpul mag fail once, only one time, but I haven't used them a ton. I've never used them N2, so I can't speak to them. But if I want failures, I want them to be in training because that's when I'm trying to improve on the skill sets of having failures.
Nice perspective. I like that.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, I induce failures on purpose when I'm training, right?
You dummy rounds and stuff like that.
Yeah. You want those issues to happen while you're training because that's what you're doing. So if there's a place that I'm going to use those things, it's then.
Gotcha. Yeah. Makes sense.
I bet you I have, and I'm not exaggerating, I think I have 50 or 60 Glock 17 mags.
Yeah. I'm the same way on Glock 19 mags. I got a ton of them. OEM Glock mags, right? Yeah.
Yep. And I've got some that are dated. Mm-hmm. I bought every once in a while, because there was a shop here in next door in Vermont, and Vermont has their new low cap mag law.
Oh yeah.
So they had this shop had a whole box full of them. I was like, I'll buy them all.
Gotta get rid of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And we negotiated a stupid dirt cheap price, but some of them, I mean, because they are an LE Blue Label Glock dealer.
Yeah.
Some are old LE trade-in Glock mags.
Like pre-ambidextrous mag release and that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Gen 2, Gen 3 guns for sure.
Yep.
So some of these things are salty looking. You know what I mean? Like these things have been ridden hard and put away wet for many years in the back of some.
Yeah, but hey, man, you can throw some new springs in them and go to town. They'll still run.
So I numbered them all with paint pens so they don't wear off. And I've been running them and they're still all run. They still all run.
That's a good testimony for
thinking one of them.
Glock mags. Yeah, I'm like you. I've got a mixture of like Gen 2 and Gen 3 in particular mags from before the AWB sunset, and then back when it was the Clinton era where you could only have 10 round mags, all that crap. The only way to get high capacity, 15 round Glock 19 mags was to buy LE trade in.
Yep.
And so I bought every freaking one of those I could ever find. And so I've got a pile of them. I've got Gen 3, Gen 4, I got some Gen 5s. And then I've also probably got 20 or so of the Magpul mags. And they run. I use them at the range. I've got, I don't know. I think maybe I carry one of my 19s. I think it's like the one out in my my toolbox is got a Magpul mag in it and stuff like that. But I haven't had any failures with the Magpul mags yet. ETS mags I haven't tried. I think the only reason I want an ETS mag is for the gram. They look good on Instagram when you take a picture, right? So yeah. All right. Mag extensions, right? So I'm thinking about the ones that you add, the extended base plates, add a couple rounds capacity. Where are you at on those for duty use? Big thumbs down? For duty, police officer carrying?
I would say probably, and I can't imagine there's many agencies that are okay with it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to run into with duty carry. Like almost anything that's a major deviation from stock is probably going to be a no.
Yeah, I mean, I know some guys that run, stippled grips.
Yeah.
I know some guys that run RMR cut guns with RMRs. It really depends on the agency, but man, I don't know about the mag extensions.
Yeah. So for civilian use, I think you've said before you use an extended mag or no?
Yep, I have a box full of Terrans.
Okay.
Terran's kind of industry leader for mag extensions. They've been in the game a long time and they make a good product.
Yep.
But man, I've been really happy with these. I got some of the Zevs.
Okay.
And they're great.
Yeah. It's kind of nice looking extended body on the bottom of that.
And it's toolless. So I know David can see, but these are spring loaded. And then the floor plate slides off here.
Oh, well, that's like way easier than a Glock factory mag.
Yeah, it's super easy, and it's nothing that's accidentally going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, they're light. They're +4s. They're great. I've been super happy with these. So the Terrans, for sure, the Terran and the Zev. I've got a fair amount of work through it. And it comes with a spring. They're pretty affordable. Good stuff. And I like taking care of my boys at Zev.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I like the way that looks. No, I'm kind of the same way. I think for competition use, extended mags are very popular, from what I've seen in certain, and let me kind of qualify that statement by saying, I think it really depends on what type of competition you're shooting in. Right. So if you're shooting in, USPSA has open and other type classifications, then you could probably run an extended mag. But if you're shooting something that's more stock oriented, then you're going to have to shoot with a stock mag. So, but yeah, I think it makes sense there. Where I saw the mag extensions really take off in the past year or two was with the advent of the Glock 43 and the 42 and then the 48. Really before the 48. So it's like the 43 before the 43X, when people were like, "Wow, this is great. It's small. It fits my hand, but dadgum, the grip's just too short." Then the mag extensions really kind of start taking off there. So, grip tape. So you mentioned stippling for duty. I know a few of the police officers that I am friends with. Their agency, I've not heard them allowed to stipple the gun, but they could definitely use skateboard tape, grip tape, that kind of stuff. Talon tape, whatever on the grip. So that seemed to be like okay for duty. I think really across the board, in my mind, grip tape's applicable. Duty, carry, competition, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's one of those things you really want to keep an eye on, because you start getting an edge peeling, then before you know it, it gets some moisture underneath there and it starts falling off. And then you could potentially have some sort of an adhesive reaction to a holster or to an undergarment or something like that. And I think they're great. I think they're super reasonable. You know what I think it's really fantastic for us if we're like, I think I'd be a better shooter if I had a better grip.
Very true. I agree with that.
You slap that on the gun, you run it, you're like, wow, this is fantastic.
It's the gateway drug.
Yep. Then you're like, okay, time to strip this frame and send it off and get this done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get rid of the skateboard tape and actually, really just use something that's going to last forever.
Agree. Yeah. Okay. The next two, I'm just going to kind of clump together: extended slide releases and extended mag releases. So those are pretty low investment of time, energy, money. Mm-hmm. The slide release, I think that's a definite thumbs up for me for concealed carry and for competition, especially if you have shorter thumbs or smaller frame people that can't quite reach that mag release. The only caveat that I would give there is that now that you guys, Square Away Customs, I know this sounds like a plug, but I know that you guys take very good care to make sure that your holsters are molded to give plenty of room and protect that, the mag release area, right? Yep. But I've seen some holster manufacturers don't. And then, you'll holster a gun and it applies just enough pressure and pop, the mag is loose or falls out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's never happened to us. We've definitely, every once in a while, there'll be a strange one. Like we had one recently. It was a Walther PPKS, and the guy had some sort of a modification to his mag release.
Yeah.
So he slid his, and it's like, who puts an extended mag release in a Walther? You know what I mean? Like that's just weird. And sure enough, he slid it in his holster and mag popped out. And I was just like, oh wow. Man. I mean, we can adjust it, but yeah. I mean, for the most part, we always clearance that kind of stuff. But I think they're great. You really just check your gear. Sometimes even if your holster's not touching it and you're carrying inside the waistband or something like that, you sit down just right. You can apply pressure to that. Yeah. Big enough. I see some guys like with these competition size extended for EDC guns.
Oh yeah, they look like the end of almost like a shell casing, right?
You look like a ping pong paddle sitting on the side of your gun. Yeah, right. It's huge. It's just, I think it's a bit too much because it's too easily to get a negligent pop on that mag release. Next thing you know, you're walking around, you have a 17-round Glock mag dumping on the floor in front of you in Walmart, and everybody's going to freak out. Or God forbid, you go to use your gun, you pull it up and draw it, and when gravity takes over, and you have
a mag at them.
Single shot gun.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's definitely good for competition. The oversized ones, competition. But be careful. What about, so I don't have any experience with the Safari Land holsters for duty, the retention holsters and things like that. Mm-hmm. Not talking about you guys and your 5.0, but like the, the true Safari Land, do the extended mag releases, are they going to interfere with the holster or vice versa?
Hey folks, David here. Did you know that there is more to the Shooters Nation than this podcast? Mark and I are working hard to knit together a community of well-informed, responsibly armed citizens who are well prepared to face the worst days of their lives. We would like to invite you to join us and the other listeners on our various social media outlets and become an active part of the Shooters Nation community. You can find us on Instagram as @ShootersNationRadio. And if Facebook is your thing, you can find us there at facebook.com/ShootersNation. While you're there, be sure to click on the link to join our Facebook Shooters Nation community. And as always, you can head over to shootersnation.com for more listener resources.
The extended mag releases, are they going to interfere with the holster or vice versa?
Not typically. I think that they're mostly radius and clearance for that. Okay. Because what I like to achieve is I like to do like a 50-50 on our holsters. And I think that they kind of do the same. Either it's a 50-50 or they just void out the area enough, because what I like to be able to do is be able to, if you do a lot of shooting and a lot of training, it's nice to be able to pop your mag out while it's holstered.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So you can get a thumb in there and either get half the button or get your thumb underneath it and be able to pop that mag out and pop it in there, because some classes, they don't want you handling or fiddling with your gun when people are on the line or it's not a live fire time. So you can leave the gun holstered and then do your administrative reload so you can continue on with the class.
Yeah, pop the mag out, top it back off or whatever. Yeah, makes sense.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, cool. All right. Extended slide release. I can tell you that on this Gen 5, I've not found that I need it. On my Gen 4, I put one on there, and it was I I think it was the Vickers tactical one that I put on that one. I'm trying to remember if maybe it's the standard Glock extended. I think Vickers is like way pronounced in the extended one. So
that's Vickers.
Okay, so no, that's not what I have. Yeah, that one's definitely not what I've got.
I love the Vickers.
The one that I've got's got the little nub on the back of it, and it's fine, but it's a very small nub. What I found is that in a thumbs forward grip, if it's much more pronounced than that, my thumb will actually, accidentally hit it, and I will keep the gun from locking back on an empty mag. So,
on them, I don't necessarily like them to be extended. I just don't like how the Glock ones are smooth.
Yeah.
Right. They're not textured. They're not knurled well. So I always change them out just so I can have a little bit more grip and a little bit more texture to them.
I saw. And again, your listeners are going to hear noise on this episode because it's a bit more interactive. While you're speaking, let me look. I think it's in the most recent episode of Recoil Mag. I saw that somebody that I knew, maybe it was Vickers, somebody's got a new extended slide release coming out for the Gen 5, and it looked promising. The dulcet tones of an idiot flipping through a magazine on a podcast. That's what you guys are listening to right now. I can't find it. Anyway, somebody's got one coming out for the Gen 5 and it looked promising.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like it. It's got benefit. There are lots of schools of thought about, is it a slide release? Is it a slide lock? And I don't care what you call it. 9 times out of 10, I release my slide with that silly thing. I generally don't, especially with an RMR on my gun. I find myself not going for a saddle grip over the back of the slide and popping it to release it. If I do anything, it's more the, thumb, forefingers, on the fronts, cocking serrations and gently, just tapping it to let it release. Right. But I use the slide lock as a slide release on the Glock 19. Right or wrong, that's what I do.
Yeah, I often, and it's probably not good, but I often will push my mag in hard enough and fast enough that it
pop it.
It pops it anyway.
Yeah. I've never really gotten good at that for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my hand is just big enough or small enough for a 19 to not pinch completely, but I've pinched the crap out of myself slamming mags in a 19. Truly, I'm on the edge. Like I prefer the grip of a 17. But I conceal a 19 better, like a lot of people do. But the Gen 5 flares out enough. I haven't pinched the shit out of myself down there, so I'll have to bleep that one out. Anyway, I'm with you. I just can't. I think I've gotten away from slamming mags in hard enough to do that because I've drawn blood like that before. Yeah. Next up, weapon lights. So kind of, this was an easy mod, but it's, more investment of money at this point. I think you converted me on this one, right? You and some of our guests have converted me on this. A year ago, I probably wasn't as deep into weapon lights as I am now. So your fault. But yeah, man, I mean, like anymore, if I carry a gun, it's gonna have a weapon light on it, period. Yep. I so wish that Surefire would release something like the X300 that's just a little bit shorter. For me, the length of the X300 is why I don't carry a gun inside the waistband with an X300 on it. Just the way I carry in the position I wear the holster, it's either going to print like crazy when I sit down, by jutting out like around the hip pocket, or it's going to stab me and I can't sit with it. So, appendix carry seems like appendix carry or outside the waistband, for the X300 lights.
It's not pleasant.
No. Yeah. I mean,
but having a 1,000 lumen torch on the end of my gun though is
pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty nice.
It's a lot of information,
Yep. Was it? Yeah. You called it the information gathering device. So yeah.
I can't remember. I think I don't remember who I got that from. I think it was actually Jesse and Practically Tactical. I think.
Yeah.
Say it the first time.
I like it.
It just stuck, because it's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast the other day and man, I feel terrible because I should let me look at my phone where I keep all my podcasts, because I want to give the gentleman credit for this. It is the Center Mass podcast. He made the comment that he referred to the Glock handgun as the grocery getter of handguns, right? So if you're a car guy, the grocery getter, it's like the Honda. It doesn't. It's not. You're not going to win any awards with it. You're not going to win any races. It's not like a boutique high end automobile. But it's dead nuts reliable, and it'll always get you the groceries and grocery store and back. And I thought, man, the grocery getter of handguns is just such a great way to refer to a Glock. So
yeah,
So weapon lights definitely, for competition, probably not ever. I mean, I can't think of too many unless you're doing nighttime competitive shooting, which I don't even know if that's a thing. But carry purposes, yes, absolutely. Duty purposes, man, I'd sure as heck want one. You just got to talk to your agency about whether or not you can do it. And if you're in law enforcement, you've probably already thought about that. So not telling you anything new there.
So the no-go, because some agencies are no-go, and the reasoning behind it is because they don't want officers pointing their gun at everything that needs light.
Yeah, and I think that kind of assumes a lack of intelligence.
Well, it's what it is. It's owning the fact that they don't train accordingly.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so that's legitimate, right? That's an indictment on the agencies that they need to train more and invest more money there. It's sad when you see police officers paying for their own training just to get better, right?
I mean, in another example, and I'm going to stay pretty vague about this, but there was an agency that had a duty weapon that did carry a light, and they were asked that if they're going to carry off duty, that they carry their duty weapon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Officer didn't have a off duty holster that would hold it with a light. So every day he would, at his locker, take his light off and then put it into his leather holster. Well, with taking his light off in the locker room, he had a locker room pop and touched off a 40 Smith & Wesson into his locker.
Nice. Right.
So, I mean, I immediately go to, well, there's a training issue and, a security, a safety issue, so on and so forth. But the agency, rather than invest in training, they invested in light bearing holsters for off duty carry.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I guess I get it. It's just, it seems kind of silly. and I think, the unfortunate thing, like you said, it's a training issue for an individual. But yeah, I mean, anytime that you screw around with a loaded gun, there's the chance that something unintentional will happen. And, the best thing to do is not play around with a loaded gun. I mean, it's just, all right. Okay. Next one, drop in triggers. And I'm very keenly focusing on the words drop in there, because I know that there are triggers that, you can get that require fitting and all that other stuff on the Glock, especially like the connector. People have to, file down the connector until it just allows the gun to break and that, the sear to break and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the drop in kind. Duty use, probably gonna have to talk to your agency about that one. Will they let you do it?
Absolutely, and talk to your agency about that one.
Concealed carry. What do you think about that?
I think it depends on who does the work.
Okay, drop in trigger. Like so.
I still don't think.
Okay.
I still don't think that the average Joe should be ripping their gun apart and throwing in a drop-in trigger.
Okay, so we're definitely moving more towards the more investment of time, energy, money, right? So it's crazy. Most drop-in triggers are more expensive than weapon lights these days, unless you're getting into the X300s and stuff, which are more. But you can pick up a Surefire TLR7, an HL1, all that kind of stuff for less than a drop-in trigger, quality drop-in trigger. So, I mean, I've got a Zev flat face trigger on this 19. I've got agency flat face triggers on several others. I've got the Apex drop-in triggers on a couple of other guns. It's funny that, as often as people compare other guns feel, reset, over travel, et cetera, to a Glock trigger. The Glock trigger is still one of the things I swap out because it's not great. I mean, it's okay. I think the thing I really like about the Glock trigger is the reset period. right?
It's a very, very tactile trigger.
Yeah.
The most tactile trigger on the market.
Yeah, it is. And it's by design, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy that the Gen 5 feels as close to Gen, 1 through 4 as it does, considering that they've completely redesigned the sear in the Gen 5, right? I mean, they've still managed to make that trigger feel very similar, almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the flat face trigger. I like the fact that I can get my finger really close down to the bottom of the trigger, at the bottom of the trigger for maximum leverage.
The whole drop-in thing, I think that 98% of drop-in triggers truly are drop-in.
Yeah.
Right. But even I can't even tell you, I can literally disassemble a Glock and reassemble it blindfolded.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in a minute or two.
Yeah.
I am bonkers with them at this point in time. And there are still weird little idiosyncrasies sometimes with certain guns, certain triggers, just like, whoa, that's not right. That's not normal.
I will tell you.
Like having somebody first time it, like, oh, this is a drop in, I'm going to throw in my gun.
If they don't know the difference, right? Yeah, they don't know how to tell if it's right or wrong. They don't know the difference.
They stuff it in their holster, and that's how accidents happen.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I am 100% behind you having a legit gunsmith do it, even if it is a drop-in trigger. Have somebody that knows
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I've taken these things apart so many times that I can do them in my sleep. Sub 3 minutes, and that's including getting tools out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But interesting story. So the flat face trigger, I've got a flat face and a curve face because I wanted to put a curve face in my other one, and so both Gen 5 guns. This is the one that's been tricked out the most. I put the flat face trigger in this one, and the connector for it was hitchy. This is the only way I can describe it. Like you could feel it when you started to rack the slide back. It was hitchy. It had a really hard trigger pull, and I was like, "Well, this is weird." So I took the connector out of the curve face trigger. They're identical. I mean, it's the same markings on everything. It's not the only thing that's different is the trigger shoe. The same, Zev trigger shoe. I threw that one in, and it's nice and smooth. It's just like my agency triggers are. And so there's that one that's just a little hitchy. And I haven't taken a micrometer to it yet to figure out why, what the dimensions are off. But yeah, like you said, some guns, man, some components, it's manufacturing tolerances. There's a tolerance limit that all this stuff is includes.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, that one connector is just really wonky and it feels like crap. So I'm just not using that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm using a different, like a minus connector from the Glock, and it's fine. So yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely benefits for the drop-in triggers. I really like the Zev stuff and the agency flat both. I don't have a preference between them. I'm running the Zev in this because, like you, I'm OCD, and I like the fact that, I don't want to have a Zev slide and Zev everything else, and then a, Acme Industries trigger in there when I could just put a Zev trigger in it.
Yeah, I'm like oddly fair enough and loyal enough. So like taking a picture of a gun that has an agency trigger and a Zev slide makes me feel bad.
It does feel kind of bad, right?
I'm like,
I know.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a pretty gun. I think it's a pretty gun. I love the way that the Zev Orion slide looks on it. So yeah, man, I think it's just like the bomb, and I get so many compliments on it. And what's great about it is it's so grippy for manipulation, and I freaking love it. So anyway. All right, so moving on up into the frame mods, we're kind of hitting the top of the curve now for stuff that's higher investment, frame stippling. And I'm also going to lump in grip reductions and recontouring, right? Because a lot of times that stuff happens. You're going to pay probably $250 to $300 entry on getting a really good quality stipple job and anything else like that done, right?
Yeah, I think NAF has a pretty good grip package starting at $200.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, and there's some of the more reasonable, but it's not just the money though; it's the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the clincher for me because like if it's your carry gun, you don't want to do that every 2 weeks,
right? And 2 weeks is quick.
2 weeks is real quick. Some of these guys are booking 3 months, So, absolutely, definitely important though because the grip is everything.
It absolutely is.
Gotta have a great grip.
And you want to go with somebody that's not a fly by night, and I say this, I love entrepreneurial spirit. I love people getting into business. I love seeing new people come to market, doing cool stuff and cranking out quality work. and doing it their own way and putting their own spin on it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to be an early adopter of a guy that's just figuring out how to stipple a frame and stuff like that. Because I mean, they've got to do there are precautions that they take to make sure that they don't warp the frame and warp the mag well, and the mags don't drop free. And it's a serialized part, for Pete's sake. If they botch it, you're going back to Glock and forking out some money for another serialized frame.
Well, hopefully they are. But yeah, I mean, if there's anybody out there that appreciates humble beginnings, it's this guy. I started Squared Away Customs in my laundry room.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I appreciate humble beginnings, but please make sure you know who you're sending your frame.
Right. I mean, I at least want to know that the guy that's just hanging a shingle out and doing this professionally has made a lot of mistakes on his own guns, or bought junk frames and reworked them. I mean, I want to know that this dude has cut his teeth on perfecting his art before I turn over my $500 Glock frame to him to work over. Mine was done by Rocket City Stippling in Huntsville, Alabama. And so Jack down there did a phenomenal job on the carry mod texture. The only thing that he didn't do, if you see pictures of this, he didn't do the undercuts. I sent it to him with the high undercut, at the trigger guard. And then I recently kind of recontoured to mimic the Polymer 80 style trigger guard for my support hand. And, I didn't do a great job, but I didn't do terrible. And I was very cautious to make sure it didn't go thin, and you can't flex it or anything like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think a stipple job is a worthy addition to get better grip. The one thing I hate about the Glock grip is that they all feel slick, to me from the factory. Right.
Well, it's the RTF.
Yeah. And it's not RTF enough. It's, I'm a real big fan of the M&P 2.0's texture. I think they really got a good grip. And there's people that rant against that. It tears up my shirt. It rubs my skin, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but man, you grab a 2.0, with wet hands, bloody hands, greasy hands, whatever, you're not going to have a weak grip on that gun. And so I want a rough texture. So, grip reductions, recontouring. I'm not going to name names, but there are some really famous gunsmiths out there that do framework that look like garbage, hot garbage, dumpster fire garbage. Friends in our private group know exactly who I'm talking about. But, the art has progressed a lot over the past few years. The guys that were doing this back in the day, if they haven't evolved their art since then, their stuff looks really dated, I think is the best way to put it. Right. And, you can do a lot of amazing things out there. There's so many really good people doing polymer, reshaping and stippling and, and then you've got some, go ahead.
Good on them too, because what a tedious freaking job that is.
Oh, it's miserable.
I've done a few myself, and it's like I'm about a square inch into this, and I want to pull my hair out. But then you're at the point of commitment. It's like there's no turning back.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I love the guy like the dude that's behind Dave Mods over in Hawaii. He posts videos, and he's like, I'll share how I do this. Damon Young over at SVII, he will post videos. Here's how I do this. And it's still worth sending it to those dudes because they know how to do it. They've done it. Yeah. They've got carpal tunnel syndrome now, and I don't have to have that.
I mean, there's a few good names I think we should probably mention.
Let's do it. Let's plug them. So you've got NAF.
I'm super happy, super reasonable, super quick.
Yeah, Rocket City. I've plugged them.
Rocket City, that looks fantastic. It's great looking stuff. That Battlecock Tactical.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, he is amazing.
His is maybe some of the best I've ever seen.
I love his tagline. I am the machine. Right, and it's kind of like that the comedian thing that is a the machine.
Yeah, Bert Kreischer.
Machine. The machine.
Dude, you follow his Instagram?
No.
Oh my God.
It sounds like I need to. Yeah, but no, Battlecock. I mean, his stuff, what he's saying is like, everybody like, oh, that looks like a machine did it. And he's like, I'm the machine, right? And he's amazing with that stuff.
I literally would almost look at some of his and I'm like, that's lasered.
Gotta be. All right. I mean, the fishnet, the noir or whatever it is he does, the fishnet is just, I don't know how he does it. It's so precise. It's crazy.
And
I'd
when
love
he
if he listens, I want to get him on the podcast to talk about that at some point.
I would love to do that. Yeah, that would be great. He would be a great guest. But another good one is Stip Grips.
Really? Okay. I'm not familiar with him. So
super good one down out of Texas, Stip Grips.
Okay.
I think it's STIPP.
Oh, okay. Is that like maybe his name or something? Or
Stip Grips. Yeah. STIPP.
Very cool.
But yeah, look at the cover photo on his. Are you on Facebook? Maybe?
No, I was actually kind of sitting here looking at Instagram, looking for some of the ones that I follow. So
he has a really cool snake.
Stip Grips. Okay.
He's got a really cool snakeskin design, and it kind of like they kind of swirl and weave like a snakeskin does.
Oh,
neat! It looks really great. But yeah, I really like his work. But we can't forget Damon SSVI.
Yep,
he's done a bunch of great grips for me. He's one of the OGs, and I think one of the older guys in the industry. But and then also Boresight Solutions.
Boresight and Damon both. So Damon, of course, has got freaking amazing cats too, which is just neat. Those the big badass feral cats or whatever he's got. Those things are cool. And then Boresight, I think if I'm not mistaken, he's a U.S. Air Force veteran because my brother had a gun done by him, and it was just nuts the detail that he put into it.
But yeah, Boresight does some phenomenal work, and people are super, super, super. I haven't personally ever owned one. He's one of those guys that's got a lead time.
Yeah.
And imagine leave it to me to bitch about somebody's lead time, right? But yeah, he does great work. He's got a crew of people doing his work now. It's not just him anymore. He's got a crew of people doing his grips. So, yeah, who else we got?
Dave Mods Custom. Dave, the name Dave, MODZ Customs. He's over in Hawaii, and he does some. I mean, if you're a CZ guy, you need to go check him out just for that. But the stuff he does with CZs, but the stippling that he does on polymer guns is freaking art. It's just art. Man, there's so many lately that I've seen popping up that are just like good quality. And the thing that's encouraging to me is these dudes that are coming up new. They're giving props to the folks that have taught them and mentored them, or that they have inspired them, and they're not trying to like, oh yeah, I've created this thing, it's all me. They're giving a nod to the Damons and the Daves and the Boresights and the folks out there that have pioneered this stuff. So it's really neat to see that.
There's a group, Facebook group called Weapon Stippling. And back when I joined the group, there was like 2,800 people in it. And now there is 26,000.
I was a member of that group briefly, and it drove me nuts because every day somebody was in there saying, "How do you do borders? How do you do borders on your
border conversation?"
Yeah,
it's bonkers. But there's so many good ones out there, and it's just such a tedious work, and it's just a phenomenal attention to detail.
It is, and there's an art to it, man. I mean, like art and a science. Like they know not to work, the area of a frame for too long because it'll get too hot and it'll start to warp. So they move around on the frame, and then they've got a pattern, a system in their mind that I do it here, then I do it here, then eventually I tie them all together, and it looks like it was all done in one pass and all that stuff. It's just amazing. So. And then you've got the laser guys like Forbush. We got Jeff Forbush and those dudes.
Jeff Forbush, Forbush Weapons Refinishing. Definitely. I was going to try and scoot into there. But then also another one that's really stepping up on the laser game is Blown Deadline, Mike.
Yeah.
He's done some really cool laser stuff recently.
And we've got a mutual friend over at Freedom Gunworks in Kentucky. I think that's the name of the company that they're doing. So very cool stuff. I mean, lasering. I think the big difference between lasering and stippling by hand is stippling by hand will actually raise the surface of the material just because of the mechanics involved. And the laser, of course, it's going to give you a texture, but it doesn't like increase. You don't pull the polymer out of or deform it like that, right? So it's interesting, and they each have their own applications. Aftermarket frames. Right. So our buddies like Dan McCalman over at Polymer 80, they're doing fantastic stuff with aftermarket frames. Where are you at with that? I think Duty, we're probably pretty safe to say that duty use aftermarket frames are probably Probably on the fringe of possibility, but again, talk to your agency.
Yeah, I think that, surely I can't imagine you using a polymer 80 as a duty weapon.
Yeah.
Right? I
Not
can't.
yet.
The agency that's going to allow you to have a non-serialized 80% receiver to, I can't imagine they're going to take that risk.
Maybe when they get into the full serialized stuff coming out in
it's already out.
I thought that the full. No, you're right. The serialized frames are, but the full gun,
the full gun builds,
those are later this year, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll be very honest with you. When it comes to concealed carry, I'm a little nervous on the non-serialized for concealed carry. There was actually a news story in the past month, maybe in the past 3 weeks, where a guy, now granted he was a criminal, right? He was criminal caught with a polymer 80 frame gun in the commission of a crime, but they called it, of course the police looked at it like, well, hell, I don't know what this is. They've obliterated the serial number. Now he's guilty of a federal firearms offense, and it's like, well, they just didn't know what they had, but I don't want to have to go pay an attorney to explain an 80% lower to the court if I have to use my gun. Right. So I don't know what I feel like there. I know I started off this conversation by saying a good shoot's a good shoot, but a good shoot, and then suddenly he obliterated the serial number, so we're gonna get him for that. It's like it didn't have a serial number, right? So now I've got to hire an attorney to explain that part of it, even when my shoot was good. So I don't know. What do you think? I mean. Hard to say. I mean, at this point, speculative, right? Until it makes it to court, it's all speculation. So,
man, I think it's and I'm a huge proponent of them.
Yeah,
but I think it's a super sticky area,
right?
I mean, like, who knows? This could go one extreme or the other. Right. But one thing it's going to do, it's going to put some very big optics on the 80% market.
Yeah. And, our friends, not even just Dan, but, our friends in general at P80 have commented that, there's a reason why eventually they see, they're moving into other markets like serialized frames and serialized guns, because that's a natural extension of what they do. And it's a very, not an easy segue, but a logical segue.
Mm-hmm.
But, in talking to others in the industry, not necessarily P80, but others that do, the non-serialized 80% type lowers and stuff, I've heard other people say, even at NRAM, I heard people say they predict the end of like the 80% thing, as a loophole eventually that the government might try to close, kind of like they did with bump stocks, right? So a savvy company is going to move into serialized stuff at some point. So I think it's awesome that P80 is doing it. I mean, they're innovators, they're leaders in the field. I think they've got a leg up, and it's cool to see them doing it. And once they get us, I may pick up a serialized frame because I freaking love the way that thing feels. I took my P80 out to the range not too long ago and ran it, and it's like, man, this gun is the money. I mean, I love the way this thing runs, and you get so much of what we've talked about at this point with frame stippling and grip reductions and all this other stuff, like in a package that you can just turn key and it's there. Right. Yeah. So, yeah. Other aftermarket frames like Lone Wolf, like the metal frames and stuff like that, I have zero experience with those.
No. Yeah, there's a few out there. The Lone Wolf was pretty common. I think Agency even made one of their guns with the Lone Wolf frame, which was the Knock.
I don't remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of their, I think it was called the Knock. Yeah. The Agency Knock.
Yeah. I don't know. Aftermarket frames for duty? Probably not.
Probably not.
For concealed carry, at your own risk. I'm going to be kind of like, I'm going to be safe on that and say at your own risk. If you may be the first person to use a P80 frame in self-defense. I don't know, man. Maybe somebody already has. I don't know. But, you could also be the case study for, lawyers from now forward too. So, use your own judgment. Competition, man, I wouldn't hesitate to use them in competition. Sure. Right?
Yeah.
Use a heck out of it competition. That's a great platform for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess also just recreational shooting, right? Competition and rec shooting. So, yeah, cool. All right, so we're gonna move up to the slide, the upper receiver of the Glock world, right? So, drop-in barrels and threaded barrels. I'm thinking very entry level, low money, low investment, low time, low energy. Doesn't take any effort to drop in a barrel or a threaded barrel. I'll start this one off. I think for the Gen 5, unless you just want a threaded barrel or you want an appearance improvement, the Gen 5 barrels are pretty darn good. I don't see any reason to monkey with that. Now, the Gen 4's backwards, there are definitely some performance gains to be picked up, accuracy gains, right?
Yeah, when it comes to barrels, I probably have a pretty funny approach to it. And maybe this is just because of the type of shooter I am, because I'm not like a bullseye shooter in any way, shape, or form. I'm very much a point shooter. I'm very much a 5-inch group, and I'm a happy shooter. You know what I mean? Right. Like if I'm shooting fast and I'm shooting
combat accuracy.
Combat accuracy. Right. Yeah, exactly. So I always look at it that pretty much, and I know this, especially for Glock, they're all more accurate than I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, and I do it to support companies that I like.
Yeah.
I do it to Gucci up my gun a little bit. I do it for the threaded option, so I can put my suppressor on my gun. I do it so I can maybe put a comp on a gun.
Yeah.
You know, those are some of the reasons, not because I need that extra edge of accuracy, because out of 100 people who can shoot good enough freehand to be able to tell that accuracy difference, I bet you'd be surprised at how small that number is.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people think that they're in that category, and they're maybe not necessarily. The only other reason I can think of for a drop-in barrel, especially in the pre-Gen 5s, if you're going to shoot like cast bullets that you cast yourself or lead or something like that.
Yeah, that or caliber exchange kits.
Yeah, caliber exchange kits. That's a good thing to think about, and that's got a very specific application. And
sure,
that's great for somebody that, I don't know, bought a
Glock 23.
Yeah, wants to shoot 9 out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they've gotten more reliable over time. Originally, you see a guy with a caliber exchange barrel at the range, and he might jam every 50 to 100 rounds. Yeah. Great, that's maybe being generous, but it's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better. So yeah, natural segue into compensators, right? I didn't mention suppressors because I think that's very niche, but compensators are really taking off. And I think like the Roland Special really kind of, that whole concept brought it to the forefront of people's minds. It took it out of being a competition only thing to like carry guns with comps. So you've already said you're kind of a fan of the comp for the carry gun because it makes a difference, right? I am. The compensator on my 19 doesn't cause me any problems carrying it lengthwise. The big W, the giant X300 UA, that's where I run into problems carrying, and that's why Corey had to make that stupid looking holster for me with a comp and a TLR7. Sorry, Corey, but you could sell that as the Yancey. The holsters, it's like, give me the Yancey special, right? Yeah. It's like, what's that? It's stupid looking.
It's the Yancey not so special.
Right. Special with like SPE SHUL or something, right? It's like, the slow class special. So it looked dumb. It did. I know it did, but it just worked for me. So yeah, comps with 115 grain 9mm, you're not going to notice it really, in my opinion. You light that thing up with 124 grain or hotter, some plus P, man, the magic of a compensator really kind of starts to stand out. So, aftermarket iron sights. And what's funny about this is when I had this in the list, that was like the first thing originally, but then I thought, no, I need to move it down, because when you start thinking about investment of time, energy, money, they're a little bit more expensive. They're about as expensive as a comp, but then you have to have the tools to do it right. Not everybody has a sight press to press in the rear sight. A lot of people bang them in with a brass punch or a nylon punch or whatever, right? Yeah, and so that's the time-honored thing. You raised your hand, you do that. I bought a MGW Sight Pro because I was changing out so many different sights, and I paid for that the most entrepreneurial way possible. I bought it, and then I advertised to people I'll install your sights for, like $10, right? And so when gun shops are charging 75, $100 to do sight installs, I was cleaning house for a year, and I paid for that sight tool pretty quickly. So anyway, yeah. But man, like one of the first things I changed on a Glock is the sights.
Yeah. I've messed up 2 guns putting sights on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both times I was using a sight press.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What happened? Is just like pushed them in pushed in a sight that was too tight for the dovetail or something, or?
Yeah. One of them was an XD.
Those are like a pain in the butt to remove sights on too.
Yeah. And the other one was a shield.
Okay.
And it's such a pain in the butt. Oh man, I get so frustrated. And it's just like, man, if I was just using my brass punch and a hammer, I would be done.
You'd be done by now, right?
And I just feel like I have a lot more control, and I have a lot better feeling as to what's happening with the dovetail and the sight. And I'm much more connected with the piece, knowing how much pressure is being applied. And
that's a key. That is a very big key. Yeah.
And you lose that when you're using the tool.
Oh, yeah. You can completely bubba a slide with the sight tool, because you can exert a ton of pressure to get a sight in or out with that.
I've got a very nice sight press, and it's sat in a box and has not even been opened in probably 2 years.
I have to be very careful with mine. I may have, and I'll raise my hand, confession, I may have ruined the front dovetail on one of my M&Ps with that. And, the only reason I say I may, and I'm not definitive on that, is I haven't tried a different front sight in it yet. But the last one I put in there, man, I can put it in and remove it a lot easier than I would want on a sight. And it doesn't seem to move on it. It's not like it's moving on its own when I shoot it or anything, but it doesn't take very much pressure with the sight press to get it in or out. So I think I've oversized the dovetail accidentally, and just is what it is. That gun, thankfully, is not one that I depend on for anything. So it was a learning point. And I did that a couple of years ago. It was one of the first ones I ever did with that sight tool. And I was like, crap, I may have just ruined this dovetail. But knock on wood, the sight hasn't fallen out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So sights. And you got a multitude of options there. I think sights might be one of the things that duty guns, the agencies might not care too much about that, iron sights. They're probably not too picky about that at all, in my opinion. But again, ask your agency. Carry, definitely Glock factory sights are trash. The AmeriGlow sight options that are coming out with the Gen 5 stuff, that's not trash. Those are nice.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else garbage. And then for competition, if you're not changing your sights out, you're probably just not competing at a very high level.
Right.
So yeah. Let me think here. What's next? Aftermarket extractors. Cheaper than sights. Not really necessary in my opinion, unless you're having malfunctions.
Yeah,
but it's more involved in stripping the slides. That's why I put it higher on the list.
Yeah. I've never used one.
Yeah. My Gen 3 gun, I've got Apex bulletproof extractor in it because I was starting to have problems. I had mangled the claw on that thing with steel case ammo, and it was time to replace it. I could have put a Glock extractor in it. It would have been fine. But anyway. Slide milling. So that's definitely, we're getting higher up on the curve now with the slide mods. Milling for either to add serrations for cocking or appearance, or milling for an RMR. I mean, man, there's so many people that do this now, and they all kind of tend to do it right. I think you might find just milling for an RMR and no recoating for $100. If I were to guess.
Jaegerworks does a RMR mill.
Yeah.
For $129 shipped.
Yeah. I think DP Custom Works does like $100 optic mill now. Precision Machine, maybe somewhere around there, 120, 100, whatever. And all these guys seem to have coupons they run periodically. So subscribe to their mailing lists. If you find one that you really like, you're probably going to find a discount code sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I really love about this Zev Orion slide is it's already milled. It's already got all the serrations. It looks cool. You know, it feels good. It functions right. It's a little bit lighter than factory. So, that's why I went with that. So I got a factory Gen 5 slide sitting in the safe if I ever decided I wanted to return it to stock for some silly reason. So, I mean, I think that's definitely a worthwhile thing for carry. Absolutely. Absolutely, I would mill my slide. If you haven't done an RMR yet, you need to try it. You may hate it for a while. It may just like confound you and frustrate you. But once it clicks, there's nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I freaking love it. I RMR everything, RMR all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm way more accurate. I'm way faster with my RMR than I am with irons. And I'm pretty damn good with irons. But, with RMR in there, especially the older I get, the more my eyesight changes, freaking give me a red dot.
One of my favorite memes of all time was this car sitting in traffic, and in front of him was one of those skid steer bobcats on a trailer.
Oh, the little tractors, yeah.
Yeah, and if you looked through the rear window, it was kind of the shape of an RMR window, and then through the window you saw a red traffic light.
Oh my God! So it looks like a red dot,
and it says, "When you're sitting in traffic, but RMR is life."
RMR is life. I love it.
It was lined up just perfect.
Oh, I'm gonna find it. I haven't seen that one. I can't believe I hadn't seen that meme. But yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I can see that because there's enough construction going on around me. I know exactly what you're saying. The roll cage on a Bobcat would be like the shape of the RMR. It's interesting. I was listening to, I think it was actually on that Center Mass podcast that I mentioned earlier. He was talking, whoever this podcast, maybe it wasn't him, but whoever it was talking about why the SRO has such a larger window compared to the RMR. And it's because the RMR was made, the owl horns, on the RMRs, that is made intentionally to bear weight. And like the crush rating of an RMR for military purposes is like 20,000 pounds, or it's something insane, right?
Right.
And the SRO didn't have to meet that because they weren't pursuing a contract. So they were like, hey, well, hell, we can make
30%. It's 30% weaker.
Yeah, right. And so, but still, it's probably stronger than most people are subjected to. I know Aaron Cowan's been trying to break one for a while now, the SRO, and he hasn't done it yet. So. But that's why that's why the RMR has the owl horns. But I like the RMR. I'm freaking in love with the thing. So, remember we have the listener that's like, if Glock was a person, you would marry it. No, not true. Now RMR, yes, yes, I would marry an RMR.
I just found that meme and sent it to you.
Oh, did you? All right, sweet. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna click over my phone. Oh, here it is.
Oh, that's good.
Oh my God, it does look like an RMR. That is funny. That is funny. Yeah. RMR is life. Love it. It looks just like an RMR. It's even got the blue tinge in the middle of like for the glass. All right. Man, I'm gonna put this out of order. Red dot sights. We're already talking about them. Yes. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes. 100% yes. Competition for sure. Duty, carry, talk to your agency, but man, try to convince them. God, it's so great.
And red dot sights, I don't know if I can go 100% yes, because
really?
I don't think it's all red dot sights.
Oh, well, what do you think?
Well, I think it's brand specific, because certain ones I would never trust my life with.
Okay, well, so maybe we should say RMRs or man, it's funny. Aaron Cowan talking about the guy a lot this episode, but he posted a chart the other day showing the number of rounds that he's put through guns with certain optics.
Mm-hmm.
And how many rounds and how many failures, right? Guess which one was at the bottom of the list?
I don't know.
Delta Point Pro.
Oh, yeah.
The DPP was at the bottom of the list reliability wise. He's had more problems with the DPP than he's had with like the Hollow Sun. The Hollow Sun was like second only to the RMR, and its round count was almost pretty close. I mean, it's like within a few thousand, right? But it's going to get there, which is pretty wild. Talking about like the 507C, I think in particular. Yep. Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there, man, that may be good on your 22 pistol or something like that. But, one drop from hip level and the glass is broken and you can't see through to see your optic and through to see your irons, and it's just, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And then you're, aiming down the side of your slide in a
gangster style.
Dangerous. Yeah. Gangster style in a dangerous situation. I mean, it's just not good. So if you're going to go with a red dot, I mean, you got to pony up and do it right. Cause it's just,
don't skimp on that.
By doing right, I mean, I don't mean spending the most. I mean, do your research and figure out which ones have got the reputation of being rugged.
Right. Yeah. Right. I was really freaking shocked that the Leopold Delta Point was low on his list. He's just reporting facts, right? He's not reporting a bias there. It's like, here's number of rounds, here's how many failures, here's what the model is. And just came out the way it was. So,
well, the other thing about the Delta Point Pro that's the big con to that optic is its height over bore.
Okay. Yeah.
Really high. I don't know if you ever noticed people with backup iron sights when they have a DPP, but the front sight is like an inch tall.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's not an inch tall, but it's
like the one that you remember, the one that first came on my MMP, right? It's like got a front sight for days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like a rudder in a boat or something.
Don't shoot the thing in a crosswind because it's going to be like a sail. Yeah. That's funny. Rudder. That's definitely. Nah, man, I'm anxious to, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I really, really, really want to get my hands on that Holosun 508T. I'm anxious to do that because I've heard just so many good things, and I really like the idea of that dual reticle with the ring. The rings would be fast for close in, shooting, and the dot for more precision. But yeah, so red dots, yes. And the acro, the Aimpoint acro, I want to try one of those out, but the advantage that it has being a sealed system, especially in rain or in dusty environments and stuff like that. So,
I heard word from a word, like, it was kind of a hearsay thing, but I heard they're having a bunch of battery problems already. I've
seen something similar to that on social media. Yeah. Like the battery life's not as hot as they thought it was going to be. So, I did see someone say that the battery, like there's a big difference in like the batteries that you can find on Amazon. Like there's certain batteries, you want to use. And one of them was a particular brand out of Japan. I forget who it was. Look, if you own an acro, just go do some research. You're going to find it. But if you own an acro, we'd like to hear from you. Write into us. Tell us what you think about that. Because I think it's interesting. Everybody jokingly, it's like a mailbox. It's like this giant thing on your slide. It's really not that bigger than an RMR. We've talked about this before, but I want to know what your personal experiences have been with them. Slide mod, last but not least, Cerakoting, refinishing, and engraving. That's one of those things you're going to farm out to somebody else. The average Joe isn't going to be doing those things to their own gun. So for duty use, I think there's no applicability there whatsoever. What do you think? Am I wrong? Can you think of a duty use for refinishing unless it's just wear and tear and you just want to spruce it back up?
Not really.
Yeah. It's generally you're looking for aesthetics or something, something nice. So laser engraving, that kind of stuff, Jeff Forbush again. What'd you say? The other one is Blown Deadlines, doing some lasering and stuff. Yeah. Freedom Gun Company, those guys. That's cool. For competition, sure, why not? Race guns, have at it. Go nuts, do the red, white, and blue, or the whatever else. For the Instagram, for the concealed carry, why not go crazy? The only thing I'd maybe caveat there is for concealed carry. Again, you don't want to like laser. I don't know. Like anything that you wouldn't want to have to
wait for flash.
Court. Right. Yeah. Defend in court. Right. Like, we've got a friend that, he's got dick butt on one, like on his, when he had that done laser engraved on something. Right. And that's kind of funny. Yeah. I think I would laugh. I would chuckle if I were on the jury in court and there was somebody like the defense attorney's holding up a slide and it's got dick butt laser engraved on it. I would laugh. Right. But, you don't want like you said, wait for flash or make my day or,
think about having to defend yourself when somebody is reading, what's on your gun.
Right.
It reminds me of that old saying, like if you're going to carry a bat in your car for self-protection, you better have a ball glove too.
Right. Exactly. Right. You want plausible deniability. And so, yeah, but still, anyway, go nuts if it's a concealed gun within reason. Okay. So, those are the common things. I've kind of got some things here like mods with specific applications as we round off the episode. I alluded to this earlier, custom fitted triggers, trigger action jobs where somebody's filing things down or lightening it up or whatever for duty use, man, no way. I think most agencies would tell you not only no, but heck no, right? Mm-hmm. Concealed carry, probably heck no. In my opinion, I wouldn't go doing that kind of stuff for a concealed carry gun. Again, I don't want to have to defend, God forbid. I think I've heard Masad Ayub talk about really stupid light triggers and the citizen pulls the gun, and this is purely anecdotal. Maybe he didn't say this, but citizen pulls the gun, holds the guy at gunpoint, and the trigger's too light, and adrenaline's pumping, and bam, they smoke the guy. And mm-hmm. I don't want that on my conscience at all. So for competitive use, sure, why not? As long as it's legal in your competitive circle or whatever governing body manages your competition, why not? I guess as long as it's safe and you're not putting people at risk. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. I mean, let's move quickly on to the next one. Aftermarket recoil springs and spring guide rods. I mean, mm-hmm. that in the Gen 3 Glock days, that was a popular thing, was to swap out your guide rod and spring. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't hear too much about that anymore. Right.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes depending on the gun, I mean, I know some guys with 34s like to swap them out to different weights because they can get different reliabilities and better functioning 34s with the way that the recoil feels better.
Yeah. Yeah.
With different spring loads. But that's really the only reason.
I mean, is that competition shooting mostly or recreational shooting, or are these guys doing it for carry and duty and stuff? Or
the one guy that I originally had been recommended by to do that was carrying his 34.
Yeah. Okay. I'll honestly say that the first time I swapped, for any particular reason, I swapped a tungsten guide rod and a 15-pound lighter is lighter. So I think it was definitely a 15-pound spring in a Glock 19. I think the Glock 19 maybe comes with a 16 or 17 factory. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not looking at this stuff on, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but the guy that told me about this was a good friend of mine that was carrying a 19 for law enforcement purposes. And it was at a class, and he let me shoot his to try it out and feel it. And like you said, it kind of smooths out the recoil, impulses a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it's not such a violent slamming forward of the slide. And so, your splits were better. But man, you got to be shooting at a certain level to really appreciate that. It's kind of almost like a comp, right? I mean, you kind of got to be shooting at a certain level for that to make sense to you. And if you're not already capable of grouping, at a slow, steady pace in a 2-inch group, and you're more like an 8-inch group guy, mm-hmm. probably not for you. Not yet. Mm-hmm. Invest the time and the money and ammo and get to that point and then try it out. So, lightened strikers and striker springs, for duty.
Nope.
Okay. For carry.
Nope.
For competition, maybe. Right?
Maybe.
Yeah. And I see this with guys that are running minor power 9mm loads, and they're in search of the flat. They want their 9mm to feel like the 22 pistol that you described earlier, right? Where it just mm-hmm. doesn't move. And light loads, light primers, because man, lighter striker springs are gonna, they're gonna result in a lighter strike unless you go with a lightened striker to kind of get some more inertia in there. And then you're going to run into some, I think you're going to run into some reliability issues, strikers breaking and maybe not always igniting the primer, et cetera. So there's no way I would do that for a duty gun for sure. And definitely not for a carry gun. Competition, again, you've got to be at a certain level shooting you're splitting hairs at this point to find the little something that gives you an advantage. Caliber swap barrels, we've already talked about those. So I mean, I think that's kind of more, for me, more of a range toy practice. I normally carry a Glock 23 or a Glock 22, and 40 caliber ammo is more expensive or harsher to shoot. And I want to shoot 9mm for cheaper shooting.
One that I thought was pretty good is that the secondary market is filled with 40 caliber Glocks for really, really cheap.
So they've gotten more reliable, right? The caliber swaps have gotten more reliable than they used to be. Mm-hmm. That's a good point, right? To pick up, like, I would rather see somebody pick up a police trade-in 22, Glock 22, which is a 40 caliber gun, and drop in a caliber change, caliber swap barrel for 9mm, than buy a Lorson or a Raven or a Jimenez, the Jimenez, or, even a High Point, for like home defense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have a better gun that way, in my opinion. But, the other caliber swap that really I think is kind of cool is like the gentleman that got my Glock 21. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't drop a 10mm caliber swap in and turn it into a Glock 20. Because, I mean, the gun's identical in every other way other than the barrel. That's it. So that might make sense. Mods that we wouldn't recommend, just to kind of really wrap the show up. Lightened striker springs for carrier duty. We talked about that. Anything else that just comes up to mind? Like, I got a couple things in here I think that just jumped out at me as I was thinking about it, like stupid things that I've maybe even myself spent money on that were worthless. But can you think of anything that you just flat would not do to a Glock?
I don't really dig the idea of painting them to look like a toy.
Okay. Fair enough, right? I've seen that. That's popular.
Yeah. And then there's like some of the stupid novelty things like the bayonet.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah.
But really, I mean, there are really a lot of things that are really reasonable. If you think about it, there's an application that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can think of anything that are just absolutely no-goes, don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was thinking about this stuff that's just a dumb waste of money, like the grip plug. It's funny, they were, of course, the butt of a handgun is at the base of the grip, like where the magazine well, that's always, when you heard the term butt stroke, somebody like to smack them with, like the old 1930s noir crime fiction things where the detective takes his revolver and clubs the guy over the head. That's, butt stroke the guy. Well, the butt of a handgun, you used to, humorously, it was called the butt plug that went in the Glock, right? The grip plug. Why? There's that's not functional. There's nothing in that cavity that getting belly button lint or dirt or, Cheetos or anything else, and that's going to harm your Glock. It's so why put a plug in that, right? I mean, it's actually a great place to stick your thumb up in and rip a mag out if it's stuck.
That was part of its intention,
right?
Is to have that, yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't do that. I think that's dumb. Of course, dumb stuff like slide in plates with aggressive or questionable slogans, make my day.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. There's memes lately that have got like, I don't know, like, spins on the 3-per stuff, like moldy labia borther hell's yes or whatever, engraved on it. It's kind of funny. Spin on the Molin Labe stuff. I wouldn't put anything on there I wouldn't want to see in court.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't. And again, that's anecdotal, right? I mean, there's no evidence that this has ever gone wrong for anybody, but I don't want to freaking add that to my list of worries if I have to. Yeah. If some crackhead comes after my family and I with a machete and I have to legally justifiably shoot the guy, I don't want the thing that causes me trouble in court to be my make my day end plate on my Glock.
Yeah.
So
you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. And I think, really anything that's irreversible that if you think you might possibly want to sell your Glock later or trade it off, I think you need to understand that all modifications that you make to a Glock that are irreversible are personal. They're subject to personal opinion, personal taste. I like this. I like the way this Glock is stippled. I like the way that Cerakote finish looks. I like this. I like that. That gun is now worth exactly what I personally like about it. If I try to sell this in the secondary market or trade it, somebody else is going to look at it with their own opinions and their own biases and say, nope, I don't care anything about it. So, and I see this a lot on our local gun forum here in Tennessee, pardon me, where people, they list a gun that's been stippled. I mean, maybe they did it themselves. Maybe they paid somebody to do it. It's got Cerakote, blah, blah, blah. And it's a modified gun. And it's very specific to that person's taste now. And they wonder why they're not getting $500-$600 for it. It's like, well, the guy that's looking at your sale listing may not want a Glock that was themed after Frosted Flakes cereal, right? If you got a Frosted Flakes Cerakote job on here, he may not care anything about it. So, that's why. So again, that's kind of it. For me, that was it. The stuff that I wouldn't recommend is just those few things there. Last thing on the agenda, third-party Glock platform or Glock style gun. So here's just a simple question. What about just going to a third party? Instead of modifying your Glock, what about just skipping all that crap and going straight to a Glock style handgun that was based on or derived for the Glock platform? And by that, I'm thinking about the Faxon FX19, the Syndicate by Agency Arms, and Polymer 80's forthcoming serialized guns, or their serialized frames now, right? Because the Faxon and the Syndicate are both using Polymer 80 frames.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just want all that stuff done, why not just go buy something that's already done like that? What do you think there?
Well, I think the big thing about it is that, I think part of it's in the thrill of the build. You get to meticulously pick out each pin and spring and make it the way you want it. And I think that a lot of people are not doing these things because they require these modifications in order to shoot better, but they're doing it because they require these modifications so that their gun looks different than everybody else's in the line.
Fair point.
And I think that those may be a good way to do it if you really just want the latest, race gun, so to say, the latest gun that actually just performs better. That is a great way to do it. Hell, the OZ9 is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
You get a lot of freaking gun for the money for the OZ9.
And so I kind of set that one aside. It's on the list, right? But it's not, we've talked about this. It's not a Glock, right? And so before we started recording tonight, I said, Mark, at what point in your mind does a Glock no longer a Glock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had a very key point. And maybe that's a great thing to mention, really as we kind of close this. Why don't you, so I asked you, Mark, is there a percentage? Is it like 80%? If I've got a Polymer 80 slide or a Polymer 80 frame and, Glock internals and a Glock slide and whatever else, what's the magic number? Is it 50%, 80%? How many percent of non-Glock parts is required to no longer make it a Glock? And you said,
for me, the magic number is the serial number.
Right.
If it's a serial numbered Glock, it is a Glock.
Yeah.
If it's not a serial number Glock, it's not a Glock.
Right.
I don't care how many Glock parts it has in it. If it's a 80% Polymer 80 with no serial number, it's not a Glock. It's not a good.
Yeah. It's just not. And I think that is really where the rubber meets the road, right? It's the serial number. Who owns the serial number? Does Glock own it?
Yeah.
Does Polymer 80 own it? Does Agency? Does Zev? Who owns the serial number? Now, the Zev OZ9 is a different animal. It looks very Glock-like in certain aspects. It uses Glock mags, got a Glock-style trigger. And actually doesn't, really. It's got a Glock-style trigger shoe, but not a, the trigger in the OZ9 is actually a different animal entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and that's a cool thing, too, is if you really like certain things about the Glock, but you want to take it to the next level, look at the OZ9. I think they're a cool gun. Yeah. Any word on when they're going to do the Gen 9 or the G19 style frames? Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard a date, but I suspect that I will know this for a fact as I'm doing a Zev factory tour.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, over in Washington when you go to
When I'm in
TriggerCon.
Washington. Yeah. I'm going to be at TriggerCon. I'm going to spend a day at Zev and Aero Precision.
Awesome. Yeah. I of course, this, and we've said this before, and this is as much your podcast as mine, so you don't need me to say this, but those dudes are welcome on this show anytime they want to come on and talk about their stuff. I would love to do that with them. So, cool, right? Anything else you can think of before we wrap up the Glock mods discussion?
No, I think we really covered it well.
Yeah.
It was easier breaking it down like that rather than just randomly bouncing around the gun to start at the bottom based on price points.
Kind of work up, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that you're right, though. We could talk about this for 8 hours because we kind of skipped over some stuff. We blazed through it. So there's brands you can fix on. There's styles that you can fix on, curved triggers versus flat triggers versus, 3-dot sights versus night sights versus fiber optic sights versus suppressor height sights. There's
there's lots of different the barrels. You have finishes, you have stainless, you have black, you have PVD, you have tin.
Yeah.
There's so
many
different
options. Barrel for this thing. I don't know, for some reason I kind of want to see a gold tin barrel in my Zev here. So I know that they make them. I just need to do it. Yeah, I mean, we could even do a whole episode on Glock set up for competition. And then really, I'd almost want to find a competitive shooter that's shooting at a high level with it and just say, hey, come on and talk, right? We'll just sit back and take notes. But that's not my area of expertise at all. So, I mean, I've got a pretty good package here. So you've got the OZ9 and you've got the G45 that you get tricked out, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. This thing that I'm holding in my hands, I think most of our listeners have seen on Instagram. It's a Gen 5 Glock 19, and I've dropped a Zev trigger in it. We've got the Zev Orion slide. It's got the factory Glock 19 Gen 5 barrel. I've got Zev suppressor height sights, a Trigicon RMR, and a Streamlight TLR7 light on it. And I carry that sucker all day, every day. So far this past month, this has been my constant side companion in my Squared Away Custom Zulu holster. So it's a very formidable carry package. I don't feel underarmed in any way carrying that thing around. Carry it to church, carry it out, run around with the kids, carry it playing in the yard, carry it washing the car. Doesn't matter. I'm committed to carrying this thing as often as I can right now, and I made this work. So anyway, that's my carry gun, and then it just, Glock perfection, but then I go and further the perfection, which is the joke that we started with. So whatever. You either get over it or you're going to harp on it and beat us into the ground with it. But, what have you. All right. So closing comments for our audience. You can connect with us at shootersnation.com and on facebook.com/shootersnation. Again, Instagram as @shootersnationradio. You can reach me by email as david@shootersnation.com. And Mark, how do they reach you?
Mark@shootersnation.com.
Look at that. It's kind of easy. David and Mark at Shooters Nation. Yeah. And so if they want some Kydex holsters or some Polymer 80 gear or any other number of things that you guys have got, they can head over to your website.
Yep. SquaredAwayCustoms.com. And then use coupon code Shooters Nation on any Kydex needs that you may have and save yourself some money. Yep,
definitely. Check them out, man. I mean, because you guys have really expanded beyond it. If a listener hasn't checked out your website in 6 months, they need to go look again, because you guys have got a lot of new cool stuff on there. So
yeah, there's been quite a few things added.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for this episode. That we hope that you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you again in a week. And man, I just can't say be safe out there anymore. We've kind of ruined that with the last episode. So, be dangerous or something. I don't know. I mean, be responsibly dangerous. We're gonna have to figure out a new thing. Carry a Glock. Until next time, carry a Glock. If you don't have a Glock, go buy a Glock. That's it, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
The preceding segment was a production of the Shooters Nation podcast. Visit us online at shootersnation.com.